If you're a Christian or traditional man in America's society today, you may be finding that you're struggling to find traditional women that match your views or match your outlook on life. And guess what? You're not alone. The statistics definitely bode this out. Now, are there great traditional women in America? Absolutely. I've met them. So this is not a women hating video. This is not a black pill video. But I think it's important we understand what some traditional men and Christian men are up against in terms of finding someone that fits their criteria of being a spouse, and be realistic about these things. Because if we're thinking about our lives as men and our opportunities and where we're able to best leverage our abilities to create the life for ourselves, we have to be realistic about what these opportunities are like and what we're willing to go up against and what we're willing to do to make that happen. So I'm going to go through the statistics here. What are your odds of actually meeting one of these traditional Christian women in today's society? And is it worth sifting through, finding the hay in the needle stack, as I like to say, to do it? Or is it worth looking at other options? That's what I want to explore here. So let's actually look at the data and statistics and see if we can bode this out and see what kind of data and results we come up with. So here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to start with the general overall female population and work our way down in percentages so you can find out what is actually left and what you're going to be able to work with. So to start off with our criteria, I have this all in an Excel spreadsheet over here. And the first research I actually did, let's open up this tab here again, is the number of single women between 18 and 29, right? Let's just say that's your dating criteria to start off with. Some of you that might be pushing it in the age range, but let's be kind of generous when we do this experiment. So it says about 32% of women between the ages of 18 and 29 in the United States are single. Okay, well, that's going to mean whatever that number is in terms of raw data, we're going to times that by 0.32. So what is the number of women between 18 to 29 in the US? Well, it says there's 10 million between 25 and 29. So let's be kind of generous and say there's 30 million women between the ages of 18 and 29 in the United States. So if there's 30 million, we times that by 0.32, we end up with 9.6 million. Great, so far we're down to 9.6 million women. Now, a lot of you are probably going to have some sort of criteria for their views and outlook on life in terms of being traditional, in terms of not being, on one side of the political aisle. And this isn't a political video because, believe me, I have grievances with both political parties. So it doesn't really have anything to do with that. But women that are more traditional Christian leaning tend to be more conservative and on the right side of the political aisle. So let's just kind of start there. We're going to go to this Gallup poll here, which says exploring young women's leftward turn, how young women and men views compare with liberals' views over time. So here, if we've got 2017 to 2024, the percentage of views closer to liberals than conservatives, we have 87% of young women. This is the age group of 18 to 29. And the percentage of views closer to liberals than moderates, it's 55%. So I'm not going to use this number of 87% or 55. We're going to kind of cut in the middle to determine what percentage of women in that age group are, liberal. And what I'm going to say is that's about 40%, or I should say 60%. So 40% of the women left over are going to be conservative and probably fit what you're looking for in terms of your requirements. So we start with 30 million, we times that by the number of single women. What's the amount of conservative women? We're going to be real general, 40%. I think that's pushing it for the 18 to 29 age group, just to show how accurate I'm trying to be and how much wiggle room I'm trying to give in this experiment. Let's say it's 40%. So now if we do this number times 40%, we end up with 3.84 million women. Okay, so that's what we're down to. In the United States, by the way, there's 330 million people, but we're down to 3.84 million women. Now let's look next at what the next thing we need to figure out, which is what is the percentage of women that are going to fit your characteristics or your requirements physically. Now, different men have different tastes, but I think a lot of men are going to, in general, prefer women who are not obese and overweight and tend to fit a traditional standard of beauty and femininity. And as a man, you should strive for the traditional view of what it's like to be a physically fit man. I think you should have that requirement in check before you search for it in a woman. I think that's going to make you guys a more compatible match. But let's say that most of you are desiring this. Let's try and figure out what is going to work for you. So here we can see that 42% of women were obese, including severe obesity. And for America, obesity statistics tend to be even across the board. They don't actually tend to vary by age a whole lot, which is pretty interesting. We don't tend to see that in other countries. And then 1 in 4 women are considered overweight. Let's say that you don't want to date women, they don't fit your physical requirements if they're overweight or obese. Now, some of you, it may fit your requirements. Great, that actually helps your odds. But I think a lot of you that's not going to fit your requirements at all. So let's be kind of generous here, and let's just say 74% don't fit your physical requirements. So now we're down to 26% fitting your physical requirements. What was usually considered to be a realistic beauty standard for almost all of human history, except for like the last 40 years. So if you times that by 0.26, that's 26%, you end up with 998,400 women. So about 1 million women are going to be left over here. And if we do a little bit of statistics here, and we take this number, that's D1, divided by A1, that's how many women we started with who are single in the 18 to 29 age bracket, we end up with a round number of 3% or 3.3%. So your chances of meeting the woman, if you date a number of women just at random and meeting your criteria, it's about 3.3% chance of meeting the woman that fits your traditional criteria and fits your physical standards. And we're not even talking about things like personality, like interests, or any of those things that they might be into. We're just strictly speaking, do they have an ideology similar to yours, and do they physically fit your requirements? We don't know if you're compatible in any other sense, but looking at the numbers so far, it doesn't look like you have a lot of options to be picky and choosy at this point. There's only 3.3% left. So let's say you live in a city of 1 million people. That's a large area. That's a lot of people to pull from. So there's 500,000 women in this area, for example. And so if we take 500,000 and we times it by that 3.3 percentage number, and keep in mind, that would mean 500,000 women 18 to 29. So you would actually be in a really, really large city, about 2 million people. You end up with there's about 16,640 women that fit your criteria in this city of over 2 million people. And let's say you're in a bit of a smaller town or city. So let's say there's about, 20,000-ish people. Let's say the 6,000 women that are 18 to 29 who are single in this city. So that's actually a decent, sized town. Well, if we take that percentage and times it by 6,000, we end up with the number of 199.68, or roughly 200 women that fit your criteria. If you're in a smaller town, these numbers are going to continue to decline. We're not even on to if they are identify as Christian or Catholic or religious going yet. We're not even at that number so far. So, if your requirements are just somewhat traditionally leaning and somewhat fit, your odds of 3.3% gives you about 200 women if you live in a town of, about 40,000 people. Now, let's say that you're religious and that's a really important part of your life, you're Christian or Catholic. And let's say you're really willing to broaden things and date Christian or Catholic women. Well, you're going to have to, saw off another 25% because some of those traditional women won't fit your faith markers or requirements. So let's take those numbers that we computed and times it by 75%. And that leaves you with about 12,500 women for the 2.25 million population city. And then for the town of about 40,000 people, that leaves you with about 150 women. So what am I trying to prove with this experiment here? What I'm trying to show you is the realistic on-the-ground numbers of what it's like to, be a traditionally minded man looking for a spouse. It is not easy. And are you willing to go through all the different trials and tribulations to try and find this one woman in the United States? Now, you may be able to do that. There's a lot of people that end up doing that, and where you live makes a big difference. And I wish all the best of luck to you. But one of the problems we're experiencing now is that because there's such a small percentage of women that fits those men criteria, if we look at the Guardian article, men are becoming more and more conservative as a whole in the younger age brackets. If you just look at the voting results from the last election, you'll see an even greater swing there, that there is now more competitiveness than ever for this group of women. And unless you're a top guy who's willing to beat out a lot of other men for these women, you're going to be in a really tough spot in order to have a fulfilling life in the relationship department. Now, some of you may be willing to compromise in things like physical looks or your religion and faith, and that's totally fine if that's your decision. But if you're not willing to compromise on those things, what are your options left for you? And what my channel really is about is asking men the questions about what those options are, and then me personally actually going and exploring those options. That's what I want to do here. I want to see if there are better options in other places or if your chances just simply get better. Like I said, there's a lot of great women in the United States. I don't even deny that. I know friends who are married to these great women, and that's awesome for them. But if you find yourself in a place where you're not stumbling across these women and you're trying, and you're getting 1 year older as you continue to try this ridiculous cycle of dating in the modern world, and it's just not working out for you, all I'm here to do is explain to you and show to you that there are other solutions than just trying the same thing over and over again in your hometown or country. You need to learn to explore and go to different places. You need to see what's out there. And that's what this channel is dedicated to, just showing you your options so you know what you're getting yourself into. If you don't want to explore your options, if you don't want to go overseas, if you don't want to try, different sort of movements or find a way to do arbitrage, that's totally your choice and that's fine. But I think people need to know that they have options before they, resign themselves to certain, solutions left in life. So let me know your thoughts in a comment down below. Does any of this resonate with you? Do you think this isn't a big problem? I think it's a continually growing problem that needs to be addressed, and we need real solutions other than, oh, you should just go your own way, man. Like that's a real solution. Or, well, you should just compromise on all these things and stop having too high expectations. I don't think those are good solutions for men at all, and I think we need to explore more than that. So thank you so much for watching, and anyways, I'll see you guys next time.